Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get into this thing. All right, folks, an advisory group, or an alliance, if you will, and the NCAA, you'd better be afraid, because the Big Ten and the SEC, there's a new sheriff in town.
About time this town had a new sheriff.
They're fixing to whoop butt and take names. This is not a good sign for the NCAA. They've seen what they've been up to, how they've been getting sued left and right, how they are being very arbitrary into who they go after, how they want to retroactively change the rules. And by the way, the rules that they've created are against federal law. So that's not going to work. It's just not. They're going to get their butts handed to them. So Greg Sankey and Petiti of the Big Ten, they see the handwriting on the wall. They're going to have to take over for this thing. Look, the adults are going to have to take over. That's what it boils down to. The NCAA, they're stuck 10 years ago thinking this is amateur sports. It's not. Football is not amateur sports. Basketball, it's just not. And there's so much money being made on it, and the kids are just starting to make some money, and the NCAA doesn't like it. They want them to show up at the school, enroll, and then go out and try to figure out if they can get some name, image, and likeness money. That's not going to work. That's not how anything works in life.
I'd unfriend you.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
They're going to know what they're going to get before they sign and commit. I mean, I almost can't believe the NCAA doesn't have some people over there that have some common sense, but obviously they don't. You would think losing 9-0 in the Supreme Court would have, gotten their attention. And Kavanaugh just ripped them a new one, but, they just ignore that. They live in this little fantasy land, I guess. And the lawsuit that the state of Tennessee and the state of Virginia are putting on NCAA, they're going to win that case. They're going to win it very easily. And it may eventually get to the Supreme Court, and that will end whatever power the NCAA has. But I have gotten with the Attorney General, Scametti, and also Donde Plowman and Danny White. And we all met the other day, and I put together what I think would be a reasonable settlement for the NCAA, and they've agreed. So what I'm going to do, I will be offering this to the NCAA, but Scametti made it very clear. He said they're going to have to answer and respond very quickly because, look, they've got a big office, and they've already got the ball rolling on this, and so does the state of Virginia. So they'll need to respond very quickly. But this is the compromise that I'm going to offer the NCAA.
Before we let you leave, your commander must cross that field, present himself before this army, put his head between his legs, and kiss his own arse.
That's right. If they'll just do that, we'll let this case go. But it's going to have to be done very quickly. So anyway, I doubt they'll respond positively to that. They should. They should just do what Braveheart asked them to do and just end this thing. But I think there's a little too much arrogance over there for that to happen. But anyway, we'll have made an offer, and I think that's important. Sometimes you just got to reach your hand out there and try to at least work through things in a reasonable manner. And we'll have done that. And we can feel good about that when we take them up to the Supreme Court and paddle them real good. But anyway, let's get into this story. It's on ESPN. The Big Ten and SEC form advisory group as conferences bond tightens, it says. And this is by Heather Danish. And they said they formed a joint advisory group of presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors to address the significant challenges facing college athletics and how to improve the student-athlete experience. It says sources told ESPN that Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petiti and SEC Commissioner Sankey have been working closely together. That's very rare. Normally the Big Ten, the SEC are like this, but I think they see the handwriting on the wall. They're the big dogs, and they've become very big. You've got the Big Ten that is now 18 teams, and the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma coming in are now 16. That's 34 teams. It's virtually all the big-time schools. There's a couple of schools that are on the outside over there in the ACC, which would be FSU, Clemson, a couple others. But for the most part, 90% of the big dogs are in those two conferences. And what's FSU doing right now? They're trying to get the heck out of the ACC because they see that the train is starting and they don't want to be left behind. And I cannot blame them, especially after that nonsense they put on FSU, the OC, who drove a guy to an NIL meeting and they gave him a 3-game suspension and a 2-year show cause and 5 scholarships. I guess if he'd have called an Uber, it'd have been fine. The player was in the transfer portal and the OC did not even attend the meeting. All he did was drive him there. That's the absurdity of what the NCAA is doing right now. It doesn't even make sense. So they're forming this alliance to kind of get things together. And don't get it confused with that original alliance that was the ACC, the Big 12, or whatever the crap it was, that tried to stop the playoff. They didn't want it to go to 12 teams. How'd that work out for Florida State and the ACC? They got no teams in. And Florida State was undefeated, which is just unreal. It should have been a 12-team deal, but that alliance, I called it the Three Stooges.
Your brains need development.
And I think that's more than fair. Actually, I think that's way more than fair. I should call them something else, but, you know, it's a family show. Come on. It talks about the Big Ten adding Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA from the Pac-12, which is basically done and toast. So the advisory group was formed in reaction to recent court decisions, pending litigation, a patchwork of state laws, and complex governing proposals that the NCAA is botching terribly. It says they have substantial investment in the NCAA. And here's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to separate eventually and just take football and those two big conferences and become their own entity, and they'll control the scholarships. They'll control how much money is handed out, and they'll cut all the deals, and the NCAA can handle all the other stuff, whether it's wrestling or golf, in my case, or women's rowing, whatever. They can handle all that stuff. They can set up the tournaments. They can do all that kind of business. And then the big dogs, they'll handle all the big stuff. And the NCAA will still exist. And, you know, they can let them come into a meeting and they can sit down at the end of the table and they can listen and take notes. I think that would be fair. I mean, we don't want to totally cut them off, but, you know, they don't need to be involved in decision-making, obviously, because they can't do it. It says the advisory group will act as a consultant to the leagues, but won't have authority to implement changes right now. That'll change. And Sankey said, we do not have predetermined answers to the myriad of questions. He said, we do not expect to agree on everything, but enhancing interaction between our conferences will help to focus efforts on common sense solutions. And I think Sankey will do a pretty good job. He seems to have his head on pretty straight, and he's kind of seeing the forest for the trees, and he's not getting caught up in all this ticky-tack crap. I think he's trying to steer the ship, and he's realized, look, I'm going to have to get with Petiti. We're going to have to steer this ship. Otherwise, we're going to be the Titanic. And nobody wants that. And look, for the NCAA, I don't really know how you come back from this. I really don't. I think they're just going to become some sort of junior body. And as far as UT is concerned, here's what they're going to do. I'll just go ahead and let you know up front, all you Tennessee fans, I am one of those. They're going to throw every stupid little thing you ever thought of. First of all, we know they're going to hit us on the stupid plane ride for Nico to come to Knoxville because I guess he was supposed to hitchhike. And they'll have like all kinds of stupid little things like that. Like so-and-so had lunch over in, you know, wherever, Timbuktu with Spire Sports, and they bought him a cheeseburger. They love to try to get you on cheeseburgers. That's a big thing for some reason with the NCAA.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
So they'll have like 72 counts. They'll try to get the count up as much as they possibly can. It'll all be ticky-tack nonsense, and they're going to probably try to really attack Spire Group, even though Spire Group is trying to follow those ridiculous, absurd guidelines that have now been retroactively changed. And of course, they turn the collectives into boosters because boosters has negative connotations, and also they can be tougher on them. But that's what they're going to do. And it'll come in the next few weeks, unless they get a restraining order, which will probably happen if it does, either by the 6th or by the 13th. But they're trying to get it by the 6th because that's before the National Signing Day. Although that's really not that important anymore. It still matters, but it's the early signing day is what matters. But the pieces are going to start falling. And I can tell you right now, what the state of Tennessee and what the university is going to do when it comes to the NCAA, as they attack us. Yeah, it's going to go like that. The NCAA is basically Biff, and they're going to get their comeuppance. That's just the way it is, and I'm here for it. I'm all for it, and I'm fine with it. We tried to be reasonable with you. We tried to be kind. We tried to get along with you, and then you come back for more. And that's the way bullies are. You try to work with them. You give them half your sandwich or something one day. Guess what? They're going to come back for the whole sandwich the next day. That's what bullies do. And the only way to deal with a bully is it's what George McFly did with Biff. That's the way you deal with a bully. And then they'll leave you alone. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover all these big stories, the SEC, my Vols. And if you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Hit this little button. I would appreciate it. Costs you absolutely nothing, and it would actually help me. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay. And I'm trying to calm down. A lot of y'all are like, you're getting too fired up. Don't mess with my team, and we'll have no problems.